You lied today. Maybe it was small, maybe you told someone you were almost there when you hadn't left yet. Maybe you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. Maybe you smiled at someone you can't stand and said, "Great to see you." You didn't think twice about it. And here's the uncomfortable part, neither did your ancestors, not your great-grandmother, not ancient Rome. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago, deep in prehistoric Africa, when a human mind first generated a thought it knew wasn't true and said it out loud anyway. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about lying. It's not a flaw in human nature. It's not a bug in the system. According to the science, lying might be one of the most sophisticated cognitive abilities our species ever developed. So when did it start? How did it evolve? And why are we still so spectacularly bad at catching each other doing it? Let's find out. The conventional answer is that lying is a moral failure. Every major religion has a version of "thou shalt not lie." Every culture carries some shade of shame around it. And yet, according to research from the University of Massachusetts, the average adult lies between 1 and 3 times per day in ordinary conversation, not counting self-deception. Not counting white lies so automatic we don't register them as lies at all, just regular, measurable, documented deception, every day. So if lying is so universally condemned, why are we all doing it constantly? The answer has nothing to do with morality, and everything to do with evolution. To understand where lying comes from, you need to understand what it actually requires. Because telling a convincing lie is not simple. Think about what happens inside your brain in the fraction of a second before you say something you know isn't true. First, you have to know the truth, holding an accurate model of reality in your mind. Second, you have to construct an alternative version of that reality, something that doesn't exist but sounds like it could. Third, and this is the part that separates human deception from almost everything else in nature, you have to model what the other person believes. You have to simulate their mind. What do they already know? What would they find plausible? What details make this work? That third step has a name in cognitive science, theory of mind. The ability to understand that other people have mental states different from your own, and it is vanishingly rare in the animal kingdom. Humans develop theory of mind around age 3 to 4. It's one of the defining cognitive leaps of early childhood. And the moment a child develops theory of mind, within months, sometimes weeks, they tell their first deliberate lie. Every single time. The cognitive machinery required for theory of mind is almost identical to the cognitive machinery required for deception. They're not separate skills. They're the same skill used in different directions. Which means lying didn't come after advanced human cognition. Lying came with it. The story of lying doesn't start with humans. It starts much earlier. And what other species do with deception tells us exactly why we evolved to do it at all. Plants lie. Orchids produce the exact scent of a female bee with no nectar, no reward, specifically to trick male bees into attempting to mate with them. The bee pollinates the orchid. The orchid gives nothing back. A con running for millions of years. Birds lie. Fork-tailed drongos in the Kalahari Desert mimic predator alarm calls to steal food from meerkats and mongooses. And here's what makes this extraordinary. When the surrounding animals start ignoring the alarm because it keeps being false, the drongo switches to a different animal's alarm call. It adapts its deception when the first version stops working. Strategic, updating, context-sensitive deception. In a bird with a brain the size of a walnut. Primates go further. Chimpanzees in captivity learn to conceal information from dominant individuals to protect access to food. A subordinate chimp who discovered food would wait until the dominant chimp left and only then retrieve it. That chimp understood that the dominant's knowledge was a threat. It managed that knowledge strategically. Bonobos, gorillas, orangutans, all documented using deception in social contexts. And the more complex the primate's social structure, the more sophisticated the deception. Which brings us to the Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis, proposed in the 1980s by primatologists Richard Byron and Andrew Whiten. The idea is simple. Living in large, complex social groups creates constant, relentless cognitive pressure. You need to track relationships. Who is allied with whom? Who can be manipulated? Who is manipulating you? The social environment of a primate group is, informationally, one of the most demanding environments a brain can exist in. And deception, the ability to influence what others believe, is one of the highest value tools in that environment. The same evolutionary pressure that made us smart also made us liars. They're not opposites, they're the same thing. Here's where it gets complicated. You cannot excavate a lie. Deception leaves no physical trace in the archaeological record. So how do we trace the origin of human lying through time? Indirectly, through the cognitive prerequisites that lying requires, because while we can't find lying itself, we can find evidence of the brain architecture that makes lying possible. Theory of mind appears to emerge in the human lineage somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 years ago, not from brain scans, from behavior, from what our ancestors did. Ochre, red pigment used for body decoration, found at sites in South Africa dating back 200,000 years. Decorating your body is a form of deliberate self-presentation, constructing an image of yourself and projecting it to an audience. Managing what other people believe about you, that is the same cognitive operation as lying, just pointed outward instead of inward. Strategic resource concealment. Archaeological sites from the Middle Stone Age show evidence of caching, storing resources in hidden locations for later retrieval. Hiding something so others don't know it exists is structurally identical to lying by omission. And then there's language itself. Language emerged somewhere between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago in its fully modern form. Before language, deception existed, but it was behavioral, gestural, limited. Language changed everything. Because language is, by its very nature, a mechanism for transmitting mental states between minds. And the moment you could transmit beliefs verbally, you could transmit false ones. You could lie to multiple people simultaneously, build false reputations and spread them through an entire community, make promises you never intended to keep, invent history or deny it. You could tell stories. And here is where the story of lying gets philosophically strange. The same cognitive machinery that enables deception, the ability to generate false but coherent narratives, is also the machinery behind fiction, religion, mythology, art. The ability to say, what if this were true, even though it isn't, sits at the foundation of every story ever told. The first liar and the first storyteller may have been the same person, telling the same lie, for very different reasons. If you want to understand where lying comes from, watch a 3-year-old. Not because children are morally corrupt, but because they're running the same evolutionary software our ancestors ran, in real time in front of you, with more juice boxes involved. Children begin lying at around age 2 to 3, simple lies, I didn't do it. They require only a basic understanding that the other person doesn't know what you know. By age 4 to 5, the lies get better. Children can maintain a false story across multiple questions. They've developed what researchers call semantic leakage control, the ability to prevent true information from accidentally slipping into a false narrative. By age 6 to 7, children tell lies that are genuinely difficult for adults to detect, not because they've become morally compromised, because their prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and complex social modeling, has matured enough to support sustained deception. And here's the detail that should change how you think about this. The children who develop theory of mind earliest, who understand other minds most accurately, are also the ones who become the most convincing liars. It's the same skill. Better theory of mind means better at modeling what the other person knows, which means better at filling exactly the gaps that make a lie believable. Psychologist Kang Lee at the University of Toronto found that the cognitive profile of an effective child liar overlapped almost perfectly with the cognitive profile of a highly socially intelligent child. Your child is lying to you, and if they're good at it, that's actually a developmental compliment. Now extend that logic backwards 300,000 years. The early Homo sapiens best at social deception had a measurable survival advantage. They could navigate alliance politics, acquire resources competitors didn't know about, survive betrayal by betraying first. Natural selection does not care about honesty, it cares about survival and reproduction. The capacity for dishonesty in the human species wasn't selected against. In many environments across deep evolutionary time, it was selected for. We didn't inherit a tendency to lie despite our nature, we inherited it because of it. Here's where we have to be honest about what this argument does and doesn't prove. The Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis is influential but contested. Not everyone agrees that social competition was the primary driver of primate intelligence. Some researchers argue ecological pressures, foraging complexity, tool use, environmental problem solving were equally important. The developmental correlation between theory of mind and lying doesn't mean all socially intelligent people are liars. The same machinery points in either direction. High social intelligence predicts both effective deception and effective empathy, both reading people to manipulate them and reading people to help them. And the cross-cultural universality of honesty norms is real and significant. Every human culture has rules against lying. Every culture has social punishment for detected deception. Lying evolved alongside lie detection. The arms race between them is ongoing. What the science tells us is not that humans are fundamentally dishonest. It tells us we are fundamentally equipped for both and that the choice between them is deeply contextual, more so than we like to admit. The capacity for deception and the capacity for imagination are the same capacity. So when did ancient humans first start lying? The honest answer is we don't know exactly. The cognitive prerequisites were almost certainly in place by 100,000 years ago. The behavioral evidence appears even earlier in our primate relatives. The full linguistic version followed language itself, somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 years ago. But here's what we do know. Lying is not a deviation from human nature. It is part of human nature. Specifically, it is part of the same architecture that allows you to understand other people at all, to model their minds, to predict their behavior, to feel what they might be feeling. You cannot be a good liar without being a good social animal. And you cannot be a good social animal without the theoretical capacity to deceive. That doesn't make it right. Ethics are not determined by evolution. But the next time you catch yourself in a small lie, the "I'm almost there" when you haven't left, the "I'm fine" when you're not, recognize what you're actually doing. You are running a cognitive system hundreds of thousands of years in the making. That is not a character flaw. That is, for better and worse, what it means to be human. I want to ask you something genuinely. What was the last lie you told? Not a big one, just the most recent automatic one. The small one that slipped out before you even decided to say it. Drop it in the comments anonymously if you want. No judgment. If this changed how you see something you do every single day, hit like. It helps this channel reach people who'd find this useful. And if you want to know what other things you do every day have a 300,000-year-old origin story hidden inside them, subscribe. We're just getting started. See you soon.